Hello, my name is Carol May Whittick. Welcome to Her Conversations, Tools for the Awakening Woman. Her is an acronym for Higher Energetic Resonance. This is the optimal state to embody in order to attract our highest desires. Who is the awakening woman? She's a woman who's seeking a greater possibility in her reality and looking for solutions. She knows being awakened is not a lofty ideal but a necessity. If she can transform herself, she can change the world. Her conversations will introduce you to talented women who speak to your spirituality, sensuality, soul. They share their stories and explain how they are in service to the world. So let their words and these conversations embolden and inspire you. My guest on this week's Her Conversations is Sarah Elizabeth Taylor. From birth, she was subjected to satanic ritual abuse and trafficking. This episode is her testimony. It's a space for her to tell her story, which is one of true transcendence and the unrelenting power of forgiveness and love. I met Sarah on in a Facebook group, and I was just moved by the post and her openness, and I just wanted to know how I could help her or how I could help people, women, children like her who had experienced the most heinous of abuses, and yet their voices were barely heard. I reached out to her just to ask if she would be open to being a guest on Her Conversations, because I just thought maybe this is something that I can do. If I can give a voice, I don't have the biggest of followings, but so that I can share and people can listen back, because I think so much of what is now being revealed as the prevalence of satanic ritual abuse, child trafficking, all of the paedophilia, and where it is embedded in literally every corner of society, and still there's complete silence about this in the mainstream media. There's a slight drip of it now, but for anybody who's not aware of it, the story really hasn't cracked, so they can't really understand the level to which this happens and what it really means to have experienced that. And for me, I just thought at this point, maybe this is something that I can do. Maybe this is something that I can offer by way of help, by sharing her story and say to people, listen to this woman and understand what she's been through, and also understand that through coming through all of that, there is a way of finding healing and rising above that in a way that very few of us have even allowed ourselves to experience. I've got so many things to say about this, but this is Sarah's episode. And before you meet Sarah and hear her story, these were some of the words that she wrote on the Facebook post that I wanted to share with you. In her own words, she has said, "I have healed so much, and in that process I have gained powerful wisdom, inner guidance, self-love and self-acceptance. I feel and experience forgiveness and compassion for myself and my abusers. I know that it's so vital to feel safe and have trust in myself. That is the catalyst for unconditional love, especially as I continue to heal. I recall new levels of abuse, trauma, muscle memories, and subconscious memories coming to consciousness. This is something you deal with every second of every day. I know it's always a personal choice to experience my life from fear or from love." So to let you know, this is an episode that is raw, it's super real. Prepare to have your heart burst open and then reorganize into a more expansive container. I learned so much by just being humble to be that Sarah trusted me enough to share with me, and it is just a lesson in really finding out what the level of evil and suffering is that exists on this planet, but then also how by shining a light on the shadows and not turning away from it, we can actually integrate and we can actually move on to a better place for humanity in general. So as always, I begin by asking my guests, HER is an acronym for Higher Energetic Resonance. When do you feel you're most HER?
I feel that I am most HER right when I face my darkest fears, the darkest monsters in the world, the darkest monsters within myself. And the moment that I face it and I get the cosmic joke and I can transmute it and I can gain a new perception and a new awareness, that it's really like, oh my gosh, this is just a big joke. And once I get the joke, I get to laugh outrageously for hours on end. And it is so healing and it is so relieving, because it really just anchors in the fact that whatever fear or horror that I faced in my life, that it was okay and that I was going to be okay. And that if I could laugh about it, then it wasn't in control of me anymore. So I feel like that's when I really feel that embodiment physically is in my body, is when I'm able to laugh outrageous.
Beautiful. Thank you, Sarah. You're an absolute warrior. You are. And, you know, I just want to just allow you to speak about your story and your journey. And you can even say how we found each other really as well. Because I think what is happening on the planet right now, of course, we're going through so much suppression and yet so much releasing of hidden secrets and shadows. And one of the big revelations is just finding out how so many people, in particular, so many children have suffered so badly, and how prevalent it is, you know, and yes, there is an elite aspect to it, and I, you know, hope we find a better word than elite for it, but as well that this is something that happens within the fabric of our society and our neighborhoods and our communities. So if I can just give it to you to just share your experience and the reason why I asked you to be a guest on Her Conversations.
Yes, absolutely. And it is an honor on so many levels for me to have met you and to have received the invitation to be on your show. I met you through a group that was an activist group that is standing up for children. And this is something that's really been a passion of mine because of my own personal experience. And so I shared on this group page just a little bit about my story and said I was open to answering any questions that anyone has. And I was referring to my experience, which is a lot of it is SRA, which is Satanic Ritual Abuse. And so when I received your invitation, it was just like my heart was like, oh my gosh, yes, absolutely. Like, I'm so excited. And I could just instantly feel the divine orchestration and connection, and just knowing that it was exactly what I needed to do. So a little bit about me, and I live in Utah. I've born here, lived here pretty much my whole life. The secret society that my family is still a part of is originally went by the name of The Work, but then they took the name the FLDS, which is the Fundamentalist Mormons. So that's pretty much what they refer to as the FLDS. And in America, they're pretty, I wouldn't say famous, but the leader was actually on the FBI's 10 most wanted list. And he's currently in prison for child rape and for arranging child marriages. His name was Warren Jeffs. He was actually my principal in Alpha Academy for the 2 years that I did go to school. And my sister is actually married to his brother as well. So we actually, my parents, they were not born into the religion. They were, well, at least my father's family was LDS, Mormons. And he joined after him and my mom had married, and I think had already had 2 children. So growing up most of my life, because it is a polygamous community, so they believe in the fundamentalist Mormons. So they believe in Joseph Smith and his teachings of practicing polygamy. And so when the Mormon Church and the FLDS broke off, they continued the original teaching. So growing up, that's really the only indoctrination we could have access to was the original form of the Book of Mormon. That's the only thing that they accepted as truth. Mm-hmm. So pretty much our whole childhood from birth was programmed with that in, like, that's like the facade. And I really love that the last time I talked to you, I got this even clearer. Like the way that they portrayed the outside world to us was really who they were and what they were doing to us behind closed doors. Like, to the world, you know, we're just this religion. We're just, you know, having our rights. We're, you know, just living our life. And they would not have like their second and third wife. So when my dad got a second and third wife, they couldn't be legal wives, so they would just be married in the church. And that's usually how it would go. So they couldn't actually get in trouble because it's illegal. So again, it's just another way around the system. And I grew up just, you know, in a normal neighborhood. I really had just a few memories of my childhood of what was happening, and it was just a little bit of abuse that I had recall of. Like, it was sexual abuse with my siblings mostly, but I had really disturbing behaviors that I didn't understand. I was very angry, very, very, very angry. I remember taking a knife and stabbing the Suburban that we had because I was just so angry. And looking back now, oh my gosh, as soon as I say that, was like a part of me was reenacting the rage of stabbing, wanting to stab a body and wanting to feel what it felt like to actually stab someone, because that's how deep the anger and the rage is. And anytime I ever think of, you know, someone wanting to kill me, especially that has to do with my family, like especially my father. Like, if I thought of my father wanting to kill me, how I see him is taking a knife and slitting my throat. Like, that's just what he would do. Like, it's very personal. It's very enraged. And I also had an uncontrollable rage to masturbate all of the time. Mm-hmm. And it was enraged, and all of my siblings were constantly masturbating. And we were using each other. We were abusing each other. And so my dad and my mom have 10 kids, and I'm the 9th of the 10th child. So I'm second to the youngest. I have one younger sister. So most of my memories of abuse were with my siblings. And I mean, we had a big family. We were pretty poor. I mean, most of the money you get, like, you give a lot of it to the church as tithing. And so my dad worked. My mom pretty much stayed home and raised kids. She was always pregnant, like up to the point where she had us, my sister being the last, that she had miscarriages, which I question if they were really miscarriages. But for every child that she had, she lost 10 she had 10 children. Oh my God. And it's interesting because right when I said that, and talking about this stuff is so real, like it brings up stuff. Mm-hmm. So I'm just going with the flow. As soon as I said that, you know, I doubted the miscarriages, because I've always believed that they were sacrifices. And as soon as I said that, I just had this numb feeling come over my body, and it's really just in my face and it's in my mouth. It's the type of numbness where you can taste it.
Right.
And when I was a kid, I used to have a dream, a nightmare, where I would be in this place and there would just be this tiny little line, and I'd reach out and touch it, and it would taste like hair in my mouth, and I would just taste numbness. And when I actually did a process on that dream, it just showed like that numbness was because I was being pretty much having the shit beat out of me, and I'm just going so numb that I can just taste it, where it's just this, like your whole body just tingles and you're just numb and you just disassociate. So I really do believe that they were sacrifices. And I've done a lot of process where I feel all the babies energetically, their souls. And I've even had a recall where I recalled my conception. And it was when I was doing this process and I was questioning, like, why I never felt safe with what men represent in my life, because there's just been so much attachment to the masculine energy in my life, where it's just been complete predatory. Mm-hmm. It's just like a complete predator. And I connected to the conception of my birth, and it was this feeling like when I connect to men, when I connect to that connection, it's this feeling of fuck. Like I'm fucked. And when I would like question, okay, when was the first time that I remember feeling that way? And it was my conception.
Right.
It's like I'm fucked. What did I choose? Why am I here? What did I choose into? How am I going to do this? The moment my soul connected to anything physical, I could feel my mom and my dad. I could feel both of their energetic imprints. It was like an energetic map for what was to come in my life. And it was this feeling of fuck. And it was this knowing that this wasn't the first time I had been conceived. This wasn't the first time I was in this energy. It wasn't the first time that I had tried to be born into this family.
Right.
And I had been sacrificed all of those other times. And this time I wasn't sacrificed. And that pain of knowing that I survived hurt so fucking much. Because it's like, it was so much easier to come in and to be sacrificed and have that torture last one time and be done. Mm. To be born, let you torture me and sacrifice, and for that to be done, rather to survive and continue the torture for what feels like the rest of my living life. That feels like, oh, fuck, this is real. This is real. And it's alive, and it's aware of you, and it is completely committed to ravaging your body, your soul, everything that you represent as an individual on every level. That's just what it lives for. That's what the energy of my family, of my father especially, lives for, is complete control. Get to own every part of you. And the fact that you're a girl, which my father had 9 girls, 1 boy. My brother was in the middle. The rest of them were girls. And I know all of them were abused from the top down. Does anyone talk about it? No. Half of my siblings that my mom had are not in the religion anymore, but we cannot really have a relationship because to them, first of all, I'm pretty much fucking crazy that I can even believe this, because I'm the only one that started asking questions beyond just the original memories of us abusing each other. Because that's as far as it would go, that question of, which I remember when I was still living at home, trying to ask my siblings, like, do you guys remember being young and pretty much fucking each other? You know, and when I'd find enough courage to ask that, it would be met with blame and shame. Oh yeah, when you would masturbate and you would do this and you would do that, and total blame and shame and turn it around on me. So then obviously there was no safety, and I was just trying to figure out, like, what the fuck is going on? Like, what's happening? And to carry most of that my whole life, like once I ran away at the age of 12, which I now know 12, I believe, and I was either late 12, almost 13, was the last time that I was taken to California and ritually abused. And that was right after my dad had caught me sneaking out with a boy, and had used the cops to, like, I was in my own backyard sneaking out with a boy who was pretty close to my age. And both of us were in a pretty close state of undress. And I never had sex up to this point. Was consensually with like a boy that I was like, oh, actually someone that I'm attracted to and I'm choosing to connect with. But my father caught me, and I just remember the fucking fire in his eyes. He was so angry. He was so fucking enraged. He took this boy, who was 15 at the time, ripped his fucking shirt, punched him in the face, spit on him, threw dirt on him, started screaming. And mind you, we're in the middle of the desert in a tiny little town that is full of polygamists. So it's all this religious community, supposedly. And my dad's screaming at the top of his lungs, he's fucking my daughter. He's fucking my daughter. And he's just screaming it. So again, public humiliation. Right. Everyone comes running outside. The cops come. Do they do anything? Oh, hell no, because the cops are part of the religion. So he just tells them, I want you to do whatever you can. Give her any kind of ticket you can. So they're like, oh, well, we can say she's out after curfew, so let's give her a curfew ticket. My license got fucking suspended at the age of 12 and continued to be suspended. Like, they made that a specific request. So again, so I have nowhere to fucking go. I can't escape. They just put you so that you're trapped on every level. And so my punishment for that was, again, like, in the way that they use the manipulation is just complex. Like, my mom is his first wife, and then his second and his third wife. Whenever I would get in trouble, they were the ones that were there. So when he'd be ripping us a new fucking asshole, my second and third mom would be there, which my mom wouldn't even be there, which would piss me off. Like, who the hell are they, and why do they have any say in my life? How do they have even power over me? Like, that, which I thought even then was like, I saw my mom as the good guy. Oh, like, you're disrespecting my mom. You're over here with these fucking whores, like, if I'm honest. And you're, like, letting them have access to what you're calling me a whore. You're calling me a slut. You're telling me the whole fucking town knows that that I'm pretty much out there fucking everyone. So he's just shaming me, blaming me, putting all of this shit on me. And telling me, oh, we should go get you birth control, which at the point I didn't even know what birth control was. I had no fucking clue I had no clue. No one had ever talked to me about sex. No one had ever talked to me about anything at all. About my period, about changing my body, nothing was ever discussed. Your body, like, you had no connection to your body. You had no connection. You had no right to think for yourself, anything to that extent. So he's saying all of these things, like, that's when it really, really broke me. And again, most of the memories that I have going to California is going there. I have no memories of really being there with my grandparents. I have no memories of coming home. And it's always like just this blurry Snapchat, and it's the, like, snapshot, and you feel this, like, feeling of, you just know that I'm going somewhere, and when I come back, I'm not going to be the same. And after I got back, I stopped talking to that boy, and I never questioned why I did. I was just completely, nope, I'm not going to talk to anymore, and I moved on. And he was the first boy that I really, really felt like I had a love connection with. And so the fact that it could go from so strong to absolutely nothing and walk away like he never existed. Like, there's just so many parts where they can just take everything that you care about, your pets, your family, your siblings, anyone that you could be drawn to have anything of a real human connection. They have to take that and use that against you to fucking rip you apart, to have complete control over you, to anchor in that nobody will ever fucking love you. You're not anything. You're absolutely a piece of fucking shit. And honestly, this dog shit is worth more than you. You should be lucky to have dog shit. Like, cause you ain't fucking anything. And so it's just degrading on every level. And most of it was subconscious because the trauma was so deep and so intense. I was split. So I had no idea. I was completely oblivious. All I had were the few conscious memories of the abuse. And so only over the last couple years have I really started to look within. And it's because I got out of survival. And when I left at the age of 12, I just went into drugs, alcohol, and I moved relationship to relationship, place to place. Every relationship I had was definitely not healthy. I just played out the exact same patterns. Most of the men that I got in a relationship were from the same community, so they had the exact same programming of a man does this and a woman does this, and this is just what it is. So you're still in the same energy. You're still in the same environment. It's a little bit different because now you're removed from your family and you're out in the world, but you're still the same. Like, I had to learn how to dress myself. I had to learn how to make a choice of what to eat. I had to learn that I actually could choose when to go to the bathroom. I had to learn how to use my voice, how to speak up, how to say anything. I did not have any safety at all. And so usually I was just this little shell of a girl. I mean, I was 12. And I look back at that now, and my son's 12. Yeah. I'm like, I didn't feel like a 12-year-old. I felt like an adult. But if I look back in my life, I felt like an adult most of my life because all the adults in my life were crazy, insane fucking children is what it seems. I feel like I'm the adult. I'm the one that can, knows. I'm the one that sees what's really going on. And all of you guys are just walking around like chickens with your head chopped off, just running around, have no idea what's happening. And everybody's in pain. Everybody's angry. There's no love. There's no connection. There's no love each other. There's no get along. There's no help each other. It's bitch, it's you or me. It's top bitch training. And that was my programming. And my sister was a milk cow. So her fucking function was to be bred and her children to be taken away because she wouldn't give a fuck. Just take kids, just breed them, pretty much just be a breeder. And my programming was to be a fucking dog, like a Rottweiler, to be a fucking dog. Oh, and what is a dog? You have a fucking chain. I can't tell you how many times I felt the energetic chain or their hand literally on my fucking throat being like, don't say it. Don't say anything. You don't have a voice. You have no right to speak about anything. So having to literally break the fucking chain around my neck. And it's this energy where it's like, oh, but you're a good dog. Oh, you get to sit at the master's table. You get to eat from the master's hand. Look how lucky you are. Look how privileged you are. You should be grateful that you're even given that privilege, where they take you to this point where you're not even human. You're not even human. And it's to the point where they will have you do bestiality. You're fucking each other, might as well fuck the animal. Fuck the animal because you'd be so fucking lucky. And torture your animal, kill your animal. The one that you fucking love. I have always, pets have been my savior. I have always, when I was a kid, that's what I did, is I would find abandoned pets and I would bring them home and I would want to love them. And they would always be used against me to torture me, to anchor in the fear. To anchor in that nobody fucking escapes this. You don't deserve to have anything. And if you want candy, if you want toys, if you want anything that a child would want, or even food, you have to fucking earn it.
What is the, I want to, the logic isn't the right word, but what is the thought process behind this structure? Where do you, from your understanding and your viewpoint and your experience, what created this atmosphere? What created this culture, this environment that perpetuates itself, or that parents will then breed children to then bring them into this environment, or, like you say, then sacrifice them before they've even lived barely? You know, what are they sacrificing to? What are they creating this perpetual hurt and abuse for? What did you understand, or what do you understand or think their programming of the purpose of this is? What is the salvation? People usually do something for a reason, and there's some glory that we're working towards. What did you understand that to be?
So it's a great question, and that's really the complex part about it, especially as a kid, because it was a total mindfuck. It was a total mindfuck because we were always indoctrinated. Our school, okay, so we went to church and we would like have Sunday meetings. We would have like, I can't remember if we'd have it like every night or something, but we'd get together where we'd have circles. We would, you know, like we were just really putting on this religion. It was this God. And so you have the purest on this planet. That's what they tell us. We're God's chosen people. We are the only people on the planet who know the truth of God. And the rest of the world, either one, they don't know, and two, they're too fucking evil that they're just going to be destroyed. And we had a lot of, so everyone was white in this religion, so they had a lot of racism. Like they would indoctrinate us about how black people were cursed, how they were cursed, how they're Cain's children, how they were just the most evil people on this planet, how just all of these different crazy stories. And it would come from, you know, and then they talk about the battle in heaven where black people were also people who couldn't choose between God and the devil, and we're the fence sitters, and just all of these crazy fucking things that never made sense to me, but there were specific things that they focused on. And it really, as a kid, it just worked me because it's like, okay, first of all, if we're God's chosen people and God's this like almighty being who like, you're telling us every single person on this planet is their child, why would you create millions of children with millions of different beliefs? I mean, and this is just me in my knowing as a kid, because in school, we didn't learn world history. We didn't learn anything except basic math, English, and the history of the church. And so pretty much all of it was just an experiment. Like looking back at it now, it wasn't even really a school. It was just a place of fucking mind fuck. So it was just, on one end, they're telling you, we're the chosen people. We're the purest people on this planet. God's going to destroy everybody. Everyone is so evil that they deserve it. That's why we have to stay separate from them. We can't listen to their TV. We can't be a part of this world, pretty much. We don't watch TV. We don't listen to the radio. We don't go to the schools. We don't follow anything. Like, we're pretty much above the laws of the land because we're God's chosen people. So we have power, you know, we're chosen. We are chosen, so we're better. So they get to this place where it just like totally mind fucked me. And I remember asking my mom, you know, like, well, how, like, that doesn't make sense. Like, if there's so many different religions and so many different people, like, how do we really know that this is the true religion? Like, how do we know our church is true? Like, how many people out there believe that their church is true? And if we're all God's children, why would he create so many fucking children and then just kill them and destroy them? And it wasn't just kill them and then destroy them, but it was torture. It was rape. It was the spiritual armies were going to rise up and go house to house, murdering and killing people, fathers killing sons, mothers killing daughters. Like, they pretty much told us what they were doing, but told us it was the outside fucking world that would do it to us if we went out there. So we had no safety. We had nowhere to escape. This was our salvation, this God being chosen. And what did it mean to be chosen? It meant you kept sweet no matter what. You never talked back. You sacrificed everything. You gave everything. You questioned nothing. And as a woman, it means that you are here to serve God, which means to serve the prophet, which means to serve your father, which means to serve your brother, which means to serve your husband, which means you do whatever the fuck they say and you don't question anything. And to the point where you're just handed around like a piece of fucking meat. And because you're not a part of society, no one's questioning. I mean, everyone around you is a part of this society. Everyone around you is part of this fucking delusion that we are these pure, perfect people who are righteous and are just living our lives out in the world. And a lot of people could probably confuse them with the Amish. When I met my husband, he would joke and be like, oh, the Amish? Like, I tell him we'd have a car. And he's like, what? You guys didn't ride around in horses and buggies? Like, what? You guys had electricity? And it's like, no, it's pretty similar, except the fact that we did. Like, we dressed like Little House on the Prairie. We didn't have connection to the outside world. Our beliefs were pretty, like, extreme to every fucking level, and then it just continued more and more. So that was like my belief as a kid, is like, oh my God, this is the indoctrination that they're telling us. This is all of this is out here. But even though it never made sense, like, it just never made sense. So to me, I never believed anything that they really said. I never believed it was my soul's salvation. I never believed, like, as they say, I never had a testimony in my heart. And that was one thing that my mother would say, is like, well, I know that this, is the true church of God. And if you don't know that, then you need to find your own testimony. And I would be like, well, I don't fucking have one. Obviously, that's why I'm asking you. And, and it would just make her mad. And again, it was just this response, this robotic response. Like, my mom was not there as a soul, as a person. She was not alive. She was a shell of a woman who was walking around doing the same thing every day, which is pretty much cooking and cleaning, serving my dad, and trying to make him happy, trying to, be whatever she believed she needed to be to reach her highest glory in heaven. And she made it very clear that us and my dad and pretty much everything meant absolutely nothing to her, and compared to like what the church meant, because the church was her salvation, and she was willing to sacrifice everything to get that salvation because she believed it was true, and that was the only way for her to get into heaven. And so just as a kid, just being told that, to be faithful to God, you pretty much have to live through torture. You have to be a slave. We would go and have to work like Saturday work projects. Every Saturday you'd have to go for the whole day and go help someone in the community. I worked from like, as long as I can remember, I had jobs, whether it was delivering newspapers or phone books, or going to work at the business that my dad worked, which was actually contracted by the US government for Boeing, making parts for airplanes. And we would go in there, child labor, and have to deburr parts. And that was just what we did for the church. It would just be expected of you. That if you were a 6-year-old kid and they told you, okay, you need to go help this person for 12 fucking hours, then you just go and you do it. You don't ever get paid. You don't ever ask for anything. And that's shown up in so many places in my life where I have a hard time accepting money. I have a hard time accepting what I'm actually fucking worth, because I was told that I was worth nothing, that I should work for absolutely nothing, because that's just what you do. Is you do it for the higher good. You do it for this. You go and you be a fucking slave, and you never expect anything in return because you're chosen. And if you are good enough, which the expectations are so high you can never fucking reach, then, maybe you'll make it to heaven. Maybe you'll make it to the highest degree of heaven. And, and then they anchor in the destructions. Like, everything was going to be the end of the world. Y2K, end of the world. 9/11, end of the world. Anything that happened, it was the end of the world. This is God's punishment. This is God showing the world that everyone's going to die and they're going to be destroyed because they're evil. Like, that was always anchored in. So now this is the day that everything's going to be destroyed. And I mean, as a kid, this was so real to me. So real. that this whole world was going to be destroyed, and I was going to have to witness it. I was going to have to watch families killing each other. I was going to have to watch people tortured and died, and everyone was so evil that we had no fucking chance. There was no hope. I had nightmares. I would make up plans of how I would escape, how I would go and cover myself in blood and lay under the dead bodies, hoping no one would find me. As a kid, I was coming up with these things, trying to see, well, how? This isn't possible. Like, it was so fucking real that every day you were in danger of being destroyed, and not only destroyed, but in the worst fucking way possible. And they would say, though, oh, but we're righteous. So when the destructions come, God will lift us up and we'll be spared. And I remember having a dream where it was the end of the world, and my family was lifted up, and I was on the earth. I was just standing there as they were literally lifted up on a piece of earth, and I was just like, oh my God. I never saw myself as a chosen one. I never saw myself as one of those people that they talked about. To me, being chosen was a horrible thing. That was the worst thing you could ever be, was to be special or chosen. I knew I would never have my family because I knew it wasn't me, and I didn't understand it then. But in my perception, that was God. Everything that was happening to me was for God, but in reality, it was for the darkest evil. It was all in power. It is all in this sexual rage that is like, it just eats your soul. And you could put it on so many, you know, Satan, the devil, Lucifer, demons. I mean, fuck, if you even want to get like out of this world, you could say extraterrestrials and reptilians. I mean, it could go to whatever you want to call it, whatever that is to you. But specifically, the thing that's been coming up for me is Moloch and Baal, which is pretty much the exact same thing as the devil or Lucifer, just whatever you say it. But it's child sacrifice. It's an ancient fucking practice. It's been on this planet since the fucking beginning of time. Mm-hmm. Sacrificing children to God for the greater good of everyone else. And it's coming from feeding off the most pure and innocent light and love and purity and innocence and wholeness that is on this planet. And it's using it for the darkest, selfish, self-satisfying, self-gratifying. I do this process that's called a breakthrough. Mm. And in the last breakthrough I had, it was not very long after my most recent birthday. And I started with, you know, the question of, on my birthday this year, I had this really profound experience where the exact time of my birth, it was just this moment where I just stopped and I just felt like, oh my God, my soul just entered this planet 31 years ago at this second, and I felt it. And I felt it so intense that I was just blown away by it. And I just realized, oh my God, I was the only one there in this moment. Time does not exist. And me being able to feel me entering this world was me greeting myself, the only one that saw myself for how pure and innocent and deserving that I am. And it was so magical. And so it just blew my mind, like, oh my God, this is what birthdays are about, is celebrating my soul, celebrating that, being with that energy. And so I was just on cloud nine. I was so happy. It was just incredible. And then a few hours later, I go back out into the world, and the madness of COVID started that day.
Wow.
And so I walk out into the store and I had no idea. Like, honestly, like, I don't really follow mainstream media. Like, I don't really follow, you know, the masses, because I'm just in my world. Like, I'm just here, you know. And so I go out there and it's just the energy. So at that time, I don't know it's COVID. I have no idea what it is. All I know is I stepped out into the world and it's complete madness. And all of a sudden I start going into this panic. And I'm just like, what the fuck is happening? And I'm so empathic and I'm so sensitive. It's just like, I'm on high alert. And I've realized a lot of that has been my body. Like, when you get into this amount of torture, your body gets almost like superhuman abilities where your eyesight will increase, or your hearing will increase, or your senses will increase. And you're just aware of everyone and everything around you, because you're trying to predict the next thing that's going to happen so you can stay safe. And so when it comes into this energy, it's like, okay, all of a sudden I'm hyper aware of everyone. And the first thing is like, oh my God, it's like I stepped right back into my family. The world is now mirroring my family. Everyone's in complete chaos. No one knows what the fuck is happening. There's people in fear. There's people who are confused. There's people who are just like walking around laughing and amused. There's, you know, kids who are just walking around kind of confused. And even in the moment of that, I saw the children. I was like, oh my God, this is our time. This is the time for the children. Like, this is time for us to speak our truth. This is what the children, they're here for. Our inner child. That's what my inner child. It's just like, I could just feel where it's like, it's time. Like, it's time. This madness, this chaos, this breakdown of everything around us is so that we can break through. And so that's where I started this question of, what did that represent in my life? Feeling that amazing experience, which has pretty much followed me my whole life. I'll have an amazing, profound experience, and then something complete opposite, complete madness, complete chaos just come up and trigger the fuck out of me. So I'm like, okay, what is that? And that's when I recalled that I only had a few moments after my birth before I was in that chaos, before I was tortured, before I was raped, before I was put into all of the insanity that is ritual abuse. And it came with this message from, and so I'm going to just say it in this way. So it usually comes in one side, and the best way I can describe it is like, the beginning is like asking the question and then you get it. And it usually is based in an experience that is stored in your body. So it comes out in muscle memory. So it's very physical. And it usually starts with the energy of the predator. So the energy of whatever the upset is. And with me, it's always anger and it's always rage. So it's like, on one side, I embody the energy that has been fucking attacking me my whole life. That biggest energy of the predator pops out and I embody it. And it comes out with this energy of, it's like, and I see my dad. This is my dad saying this. Like, do you know how much I fucking love every time I get a new baby? I get to just ravage it and it's mine, and I get to take it. I get to take everything from it. That gives me the most pleasure. That is the most satisfying. That is the best thing that I get to look forward to. And it's this energy that comes up that is so alive in me that there is no fucking doubt within me. And this is scary to say this, but I get it in this moment when I feel how real that fucking predator energy is that wanting to fucking ravage your own fucking child and get nothing but pleasure and joy out of it, comes from complete fucking sexual rage. And it's my dad. And it's this place of, I am going to take everything from you. I fucking own everything that you are. And it is animalistic on every fucking level. So as I fucking embody this energy, it's like I can feel him and what it feels like. And what is hard to say is that there is this point that I reached, the peak of what that energy feels like, to be the perpetrator of the satanic abuse, which they make everyone perpetrate it on each other. So then you have the guilt of, oh, I'm actually fucking hurt, but then now I'm going to step into the fucking abuser to get out my fucking rage on you. Is in that moment, I realized that if I was in the environment of satanic abuse, the energy that I was channeling of how real and how fucking strong it was, that I know that I could be in that energy and be completely fine with it. It's like in that energy, that's how real it is, where it takes you. It's like, if I was in this moment, if I was in a place of ritual abuse, that's the energy that I would need to be in to do anything.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And so it gets to this point where I embody this rage and this anger, and I see this image that's been coming up a lot. And it's about human sacrifice. It's about consuming human flesh and biting into it. And as I'm doing my breakthrough, I grab this pillow and I grab it and I bite into it and I pull it as if I'm trying to rip flesh off. And I see it so fucking clear, and I can feel it in my mouth, how real it is. And I get to this point where I just fucking rip into the essence of fucking all of the pain, all of it. And I say everything that I perceive them saying. Like, you're a piece of fucking shit. You deserve fucking nothing. Like, this is how you fucking treated me. And you treated me to the point and break you down to, you know, that you're nothing. Oh, and not only are you nothing, and I'm going to beat you down, but I'm going to fucking record it. And I'm going to share it with the whole fucking world. I'm going to show the whole fucking world what you did and what I did to you and what you are. So it's not only me, but now the whole world gets to know. Now the whole world gets to see. And in the instant that it says that, and I say it because it is like this energy that just takes over me, because at this point I'm just fucking raging, saying all of these things. And in the moment that I hear that and I feel that, like, you are so humiliated and broken down, and now they're at the worst that you can be. We're going to tell you that we're going to show everybody, we're going to show the world what we did to you. In that moment, I automatically switch, and I turn into the little girl who was just being ravaged and beat and ripped apart. And I turn into, and I see and I get it, and it's like I process everything. So now I've been the predator and I've let all this shit out of what I've been holding inside of me. Now I switch into the little girl, and I have to cry and I have to process everything that I just fucking said to myself, pretty much, which was them telling me that, like, I'm doing this to you. And now I have to realize, okay, this is done to me. This is how I've been feeling. This is what has actually fucking happened. And I can get from the deepest, darkest sexual rage, where you will literally ravage everyone's soul and have sex in their fucking blood and not give one fuck. Like, it's just going to the darkest, evilest part of yourself, and every fucking person going to the depths of fucking hell, doing the evilest, most vile fucking things to everyone and every fucking thing, going into that experience and then coming out and being a little girl and finding love and finding compassion, finding the cosmic joke on all of that. Finding the cosmic joke on all of that, and still being able to love myself, still being able to experience the highest vibration of unconditional love and healing and compassion. Like, that is the essence. It's like a total mindfuck of where you experience the darkest. But in that darkest of dark, it gives you the passion and the fuel and the determination to be open to the most pure love and the most pure light and safety. And it makes you feel invincible, and it makes you feel like, I can do anything. I can own my power. That didn't control me. You don't own me. I can protect myself. I know what's best for myself. I get to rebuild myself in the way that I see myself, not the way that you told me I am, not the way that the world sees me, but the way that I see me, the way that I know who I really am, that knowing that has kept me alive my whole life, that knowing that told me that you were insane and the world was beautiful, that I could find sisters, that I could find family, that I could find community, that I could find myself, my heart. So going into the darkest part really gave me the lightest part of myself. And that was the first time that I really felt that contrast to that level, where it was so intense of darkness. And then moving into the greatest light was just, fuck yes, I'm ready. Like, where I'm screaming into the face of the devil, darkness, my dad, every fucking person, I'm looking them straight in the eyes. And I say, I'm fucking coming for you. I fucking know who you are. You better fucking run, because you don't know who the fuck you're messing with. You don't know who you're messing with. And if you knew who I was on a soul level, you would never treat me that way. You would never treat me that way. How dare you not see who I am? How dare you not know who I am? And how dare you treat me that way? So it takes all the power away. And you know what? That madness that seems like it goes on forever, when I face it and I stand in my power, do you know what happens to that darkness? It shrinks. And it usually shrinks into a tiny, scared little boy. Every time. That darkness that is so consuming, that is just the biggest thing, it just turns into the scared little boy inside. Like every time. And so when it turns into that, how can you not have compassion?
Right.
How can you not have forgiveness when you understand that this amount of pain and anger and rage and destruction and darkness is deep rooted, not only in my blood and in my family and in my ancestors, but in this world and in the societies that we all live in. Like, we believe that everything is separate. Like, if it's not like here where it's literally affecting me every day, then it's not a part of my awareness. And it's the complete opposite. Everything is connected. Anything that's happening on the other side of the world, it's affecting me right now. Everything that's happening to me is affecting everyone, because there is no separation. And that's one of the biggest ahas that I got, is there is no separation. And the only thing that is real is love. That's the only thing that's real, is love. And every single person matters. And that's why we need to stand up, not only for ourselves, but for every single person and animal and element in this world. Because if we don't, we're destroying ourselves. And I think I shared this with you last time, where it's like, I saw this quote where it's like, there's starving children in Africa and screaming out to God, why would you allow this to happen? Like, why? Crying out to God. Until we realized that God was the child screaming at us.
Yeah.
We are those children. We are the children in pain, being tortured, screaming out for help. Every single one of them is connected to us. Every single one of them is affecting everything that this world is made of. And the only way that I've been able to really understand how to make a difference, not only for myself, is just to embody that unconditional love, which is finding compassion, finding forgiveness, understanding that there is so much going on so many levels. And we have to stop, like, and it's so that it's like, as soon as I say that, it's like, we need to show up for everyone around us, but we also have to begin with ourselves. Because that's where I was my whole life, showing up for everyone else. Oh, let me do this, let me do this, let me do this. And I know that it's in its purest form, it's because I want to be loved. I want to be loved so much that I'm willing to sacrifice everything for you, because in my dysfunction of reality, that's what love is you give, and hopefully one day you'll see how much I love you. And instead, it's because I love you so much, I'm going to fill my cup first. I'm going to heal myself. I'm going to own my shit. I'm going to own my life. I'm going to own my power. And in me owning my power, I'm automatically standing up for you. I can see the ripple effects that it's caused throughout my whole family. I know that there's healing taking place. Every time I face my father, even if he's not there physically, every time I have a breakthrough, every time I face him and I express all of that anger and all of that rage and I get the cosmic joke, he's healed. He's affected. I had this beautiful moment, the very first breakthrough that I had, and it was 2 years ago, where I got really clear how deep this abuse was and how much it was connected to my dad. And I got his sweetheart message. I got to ask the question, and I can't remember the question, but it was pretty much, you know, like, am I evil? Like, if I ask you to love me or to trust me and you fucking attack me, does that mean that I'm evil? And I got the answer from his soul. And this is the first time that I've ever had seen my dad in a positive way on a soul level at all. Like, up until that point, he was a complete monster. There's nothing, no connection to his heart, to who he was. And I got it. I saw his soul. I saw him on a soul level. I felt him on a soul level. And it was this rage, complete anger, completely disconnected, completely disassociated, begging me for help, begging me to go to the Creator on his behalf because he scared that he had no idea how to get to the light. So for him to come and beg me to go to the Creator on his behalf for forgiveness, it changed everything. It's like all the anger and all of the rage, it comes and goes. But when I connect on a soul level, that's all I want for everybody. I can look at the most horrible monsters in this world and really see past all of it to a soul level of, that's not who you are. And find compassion and find forgiveness. And be willing to step up for him, to understand what it feels like to be stuck in madness and chaos and guilt and shame. And especially when it comes to my mother, that was her biggest thing, is how can you face what you've allowed to happen to your children? How can you live with yourself once you actually acknowledge what has been happening, what's been going on? You can't live with yourself. And that's where the amnesia comes in. That's where the split comes in. That's where you turn into a robot and be a shell of a human, because that's the only way you can survive. You cannot be conscious of the abuse until you're in the abuse. And then it all comes flooding back. And then you just have what looks like a psychotic break almost.
How do you...
That was a lot.
This is what you know, it's so necessary, because I got so much from that, because firstly it is showing how when you are cognizant enough to embrace the shadow, you know, from going right into, like you were saying, right into the rage, right into the darkness, and really embodying it and seeing it and feeling it for whatever that possessive anger, rage, sexual deviancy, whatever it was, just brought you into unconditional love. And I think your explanation and your telling of it is so beautiful and is so heartfelt that it should be a signpost to anybody, the reasons why we have to do shadow work. You know, so many people just want to skip through the lily pads and love and light and bypass and not feel it, and wonder why things never quite jar, or when anything comes that's a little bit not so great, they have to put their head in you know, down in the sand and not really deal with it. Where by going to the darkest side, you can see the lighter side, and then you can look at the perpetrators towards you and see their soul. It's how, like, where's that first glimmer of, I'm going to find a different route, I'm going to find forgiveness, I'm going to find healing for myself? Where does that drive and that where did you find that from? And you know, when you was it when you got away at 12? Was it something that you had to work towards? How did you get to that?
Yeah. So I feel like it's always been there, and it's definitely like I mentioned, this knowing, and let's see, how's the best way. So in the work that I've done, like I've done so much shadow work, I've done so much inner child work, and through all of this, really, I got like this aha, like, oh my gosh, I've always been able to really connect, like no matter how much shit was going on, there's always something inside of me that was like, no, I know better. Like there's more out there. There's something more. But it definitely evolved. So it's like, that was always there, but it really became defined when probably like I would have to say 5 or 6 years, and then really a lot more defined in the last 2 to 3 years. And what really motivated me to start looking like, okay, like, yes, I feel all this, but now I want to take action. Like I really had never, once I left my family, essentially, and this might sound harsh, but pretty much they were dead. Like I grieved the loss of my family and they were dead. I was never going to talk to them. I was never going to see them. They didn't care about me, all of these things. So that was just, you know, they were pretty much dead. So I didn't really, even look back at my family or anything. I mean, it would pop up randomly, but pretty much once I left, you know, I went into drugs and alcohol. So I was just partying. I was just going out and having, you know, like my own traumatic experiences. Like once I left, I never had a stable place to stay. I never had therapy. I never had, you know, like organizations that helped or anything stable in my life. And so I just continued toxic patterns, toxic relationships, getting in abusive relationships, getting into a lot of really risky sexual things, having a lot of sexual like assaults, and having a lot of things that just continued to follow me throughout my life. And so I would have to say it really got to a point where my pain was just so big. And I didn't really understand why. You know, like I'd known I had sexual abuse as a kid, which is all I remembered at that point. I know, you know, I lost my family, which was hard because it was like, they're not physically dead, but it's pretty much like they're dead. So it's just, again, another mind fuck because it's like they're actually living, but they're dead. You know, and then I just questioned, you know, I was like, yeah, I've spent a lot of time in poverty. You know, I've always had to struggle to get by. But I just realized, like, it just got to this point that I was just so angry and I was in so much pain. Like, I was just in so much pain. And at the time, I wasn't even aware of how much pain I was really in. So I just got to this point where, like, okay, I'm so done. I'm so done being angry. I'm so done feeling this energy all around me all the time. Like, I want a new beginning. And I didn't know what that looked like or how. All I knew was I want a new beginning. I want to start over. I want to just a clean slate and just start over. And that's like, I just kind of put that out there. Like, I want a new beginning. I don't know what it looks like, but I want it. And then I started taking steps where, I mean, I'd done like a lot of self-education where I just researched a lot of things. So I had gained a lot of knowledge and information over, you know, a few years. And then I just got to this point where I was like, hey, now I actually want to take a step. Like, I want to actually step into the spiritual community. At that point is what it was, because I'd learned so much information and I was just obsessed with everything, like from paranormal to aliens to government corruption to just anything and everything. Pretty much I was like, oh my God, I actually can like learn stuff. So I just dived into everything. So I've always loved crystals. So that was the first thing that I went as I got certified in crystal healing, and I took space clearing classes because I loved, like, I was always drawn to Native American traditions. And that was the first thing I ever did too, was I went to a sweat lodge, and that really opened me up to, like, just blew, you know, my mind open on so many levels where I was just drawn to all of these things. And I didn't really understand it, but that's when I really started to question and look within myself, because it's like, okay, now I'm certified in crystal healing. Now I can do all of these things. But then I didn't, like, I realized that from my classmates and people that I interacted with in the spiritual community, they seemed to like have it all together, so to speak, like, oh, I can talk to these angels and I have these gifts and I can do this. And at this point I had like, oh, I know all this information, but I have no clue about me. Like, I had no idea who I was. I had no idea what my gifts were. I had no idea, like, I had no confidence in myself. I didn't know anything about myself. So that really was kind of like a smack in the head, like face, like, holy crap, I've never really looked at myself. And so that really began the journey of self-discovery. And that's when I started recalling more and more memories and more feelings. And, talking to my sisters and reaching out and asking them questions if they recall these things and these feelings and these experiences. And then it just opened up just the floodgate of all of these things. And it began with just being in so much pain and chaos and fear and doubt that I had to take the leap. And I started with taking a class. I took a relationship class that one of my best friends had recommended like forever ago. And so me and my husband took that, and that just really opened the door. That was the first time I did like a simple forgiveness process. And then I took that process home and I did it with my older sister. And that opened the door for me and her to heal, which I'd never healed with her. Like, I was able to come home and talk to my older sister who I'd never connected with. Like, we hated each other, like literally tried to kill each other. And I could go and walk up to her and look at her in the eyes and say, I love you. And honestly feel like I loved her. Say that I forgive you. I don't blame you for anything. I don't hold you responsible for anything. I love you unconditionally. I see how much pain you're in. I'm sorry for all of the times I've treated you like shit. I'm sorry I've never seen you as a fucking human. And it just blew me away that was even possible, that I could even look at her and say that. And she automatically burst into tears. And that was probably the first time in my whole life that I ever had a real heart moment connection with anyone in my family to that level, where we really got it, where she knew that I really didn't hold her responsible, that I really loved her, and that she could let go of the pain and the guilt and the shame, because she's always held that she was the one responsible, that she was the weak link. And if she fucked up, she took everyone to this place where it's just transformed on so many levels.
I wanted to ask you, because you're married now.
Yes.
So how did you get to the place of feeling safe in a relationship so that you can trust a man and get married? And you've got 2 kids now as well?
I have 2 kids, yeah. Yep.
How do you, that's enormous healing. So, tell me.
It's honestly, it's been one of the biggest challenges of my life. We've been together 10 years. I have a son who from a previous relationship is just a whole other crazy, chaotic experience. But he's so I met my husband when my son was about 1.5 years, and we've raised him together, and we have a daughter together who's 9, and my son's 12. So even in that, like, it's been a big challenge, like having so much abuse and coming from such a dysfunctional family. It creates a lot of anxiety around families and parents. Like, anytime I go anywhere with families, it brings up a lot of anxiety, because my family in my reality was not a good thing. So it really, it's taken a lot of work, and it's taken a lot of pain and trauma for both of us. And when I met him, both of us were super unconscious. Like, both of us were both coming from not really having anything, not having support, not really having family, not really having anything. And when I met him, I actually was about to be homeless with my son. And after, I think, a week or 2 of meeting him, he actually offered to let me move in with him, which was a huge, huge thing that I even said yes. But there was just something about him that I was like, okay. And I think a big part of it too was I was desperate. And both of us have talked about that, where we could see that both of us were just coming from almost obligation and almost just, you know, not really knowing, but just diving right in. And which was huge for me, because when I got pregnant with my son, that's when everything changed. Like, I turned into this super protective, like, mom. I was very conscious of the people that I was around. And at the time I didn't understand it. But once he was born, I didn't want to have a relationship. I didn't want to be around men. I didn't want to leave him with babysitters or people or anything, because I was just terrified. And at the time I just thought, oh, I'm just really protective, you know, but at the time I was like, I didn't want to be around anyone. And looking back now, it's because in my subconscious, it was there that babies get raped, babies get tortured, people want to abuse babies. So my subconscious was manifesting through me wanting to really protect my son. And so that was the biggest thing with when I first got in the relationship with my husband, is we moved in super quick together. And we had, like, that was the first time I ever really felt safe to say things. Like, I honestly had to tell him that I had a fear of him molesting my child, even though it wasn't real. It was in me. It was this fear that was overwhelming. And it's hard for him to hear that as well, to hear that someone could have that fear of you, you know. And we had to work through all of these different things. We had to work all of these fears, all of these traumas, all of these triggers. And it really just was building safety and trust. And I think by that point too, I had so much motivation to keep my son safe that I was willing to, quote unquote, put myself at risk by speaking up and standing up in a relationship, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. So it's like, it was the first time I was ever actually able to really communicate with a man and be honest. And in the beginning, it was very dysfunctional in the way of, you know, when I would get triggered, I'd be like, oh, fuck this. I don't need this. I can fucking go. I don't need shit. Like, I've been on my own this whole time, you know. And it's just the personalities too. He was very structured. He was very responsible, you know, like, we gotta work, we gotta save money, we gotta do all these things, A, B, C, and D, which, you know, to me at that point was like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, you don't do that. Like, if you do something, you just do it. Like, there's no plan, there's no structure. Like, up until that point, I had just gone with the flow. So I was like, you're speaking a foreign language, I don't even know what you're talking about. So there was a lot definitely in the beginning, but we've really come so incredibly far together. And it's been one of the biggest blessings and challenges for both of us. But we're both at this place where we see each other on a soul level, and we're chosen into supporting each other to become the best selves that each other can be, regardless of what that looks like. We're just committed to showing up and being honest and really being able to face all of the darkest parts and the darkest feelings and our darkest aspects, and really help each other to work through that and to acknowledge it. So it's been incredible, and it's been a miracle. And like, even with my kids, like, growing up, we were responsible for all of the children. So, like, we were responsible for our siblings, for my dad's other wives, we were responsible for their kids, we were responsible for our sister's children. So that was a normal thing. Like, I could take care of a child, absolutely. Like, I know how to take care of a kid, but actually loving a child, actually connecting with a child, nurturing, doing all of the things that a child really needs, that was never a part of the equation. So I had to learn that. I had to learn what it was to love my child. I had to learn what it was to be healthy. And I've struggled so long. And I think that's been the biggest thing, which I think that's why I really can resonate, you know, with the energy of my mom and just people with that, is like, when you're unconscious and you're doing destructive behaviors to people that you love, it's so hard to become conscious and realize all of the hurt and damage you did because you weren't dealing with your shit. Like, I was never dealing with the shit for the most of my kid's life. And so my frustration, my anger, my rage, it would pop out, and it would pop out at my husband, and it would pop out at the people I loved, because I wasn't real. I didn't know what was going on. And so then becoming conscious and looking back at all of the patterns and all of the disconnect between my kids and myself and my husband, and all of the patterns and upsets that we've created throughout the years because neither of us understood what was happening. It hurts. It fucking hurts to look at my life and my kids and be like, oh my God, like I just have so much compassion. And that's where the determination and the drive comes to change it, to fix it. Is I want to feel good so that I can be there for my kids and they can feel good. I don't want, and so then it's like you act out your parents and your nonsense, either directly or indirectly. So it's like, I don't want to be like my parents. I want to be nothing like them. So I'm going to go and I'm going to act out everything indirectly that they did. So if they did this, I'm going to do the complete opposite, and that's all I'm going to do. So it's like you get to this point where you're just like, I'm just going to do the opposite of that. And in a way, it's like I've trained my family, I've trained my husband to treat me certain ways, to be lazy and to do all of these things, because it's like me, that's my non-working behavior, is I'm going to overdo. Like if you can't show up for me, then I'm going to over show up. I'm just going to overexert. I'm going to do this because, you know, I don't want to be a bad mom. I don't want to be neglectful. I don't want to do this. And, you know, I don't want to make you do that. But then I see, oh my God, that wasn't helpful. That wasn't helping my kids become independent and all of these things that I want the best for them. So then I really had to look at my life and my patterns with my kids and my husband and really get clear. This isn't working. This isn't working. This isn't working. Okay, now how are we going to like take action? How are we going to accept that? How are we going to acknowledge it? How am I going to heal it? Because as a parent, it's hard. Like it's the most painful thing to be able to look at your kids and see where your unconscious patterns and traumas and pains that you've been not dealing with has been affecting your family.
Mm-hmm. I want to ask you as well, how did you reconnect to your femininity? Because you're a feminine woman, you know, yes. And not everybody who goes through any abusive situation is able to reconnect and exude their femininity as well. I know you know you just got hair up and you've got a vest on, but I can feel it, you know. And sometimes you will meet women and they could be dressed identically to you, but you don't feel any femininity from them. So how did you find that? What did you use to reconnect with that femininity and then feel safe enough to be a female in the world? Because it's hard for any woman in the world, you know, but you're embodying it, you're exuding it. So where did you find the pieces to put that together for yourself?
Yeah, so that's definitely been a journey because I felt like I've always been very reliant on my masculine energy, especially very early on. Like when I left, I was very in my masculine energy. And like I said before, when I left, like I had to learn how to dress. Like I'd never done makeup. I'd never cut my hair. I'd never had any like experience of, you know, my body or choosing anything about my body. And up into most of my life, my body was pretty dangerous. My body attracted trauma and abuse and predators. So I did not, for most of my life, I never loved my body. I never loved myself. I never had permission to show my body, to embrace being feminine. It was tiny, tiny, tiny steps, slowly and slowly, like, because we had to be fully covered growing up. So when I first left, it took so much courage to wear a short sleeve shirt. Like that took so much. To even have my arm showing was like, oh my God, my skin showing, you know, like it was really extreme. And looking back now, it's like, oh my gosh. So it's just like little things like that, like being able to wear a short sleeve shirt and then being able to wear a tank top, being able to wear shorts, being able to wear a short skirt like that was above your ankle. Being able to cut your hair, which that was one of the first things I did, is I chopped all my hair off. And I dyed it black, and I was just like, like I just, you know, like I got to this point where I did feel feel very masculine. I did feel, you know, like I didn't really know how to be in my body. I didn't really know how to be a woman. And I judged myself and I was critical about myself too, because that I came out to the world and, you know, we'd meet kids and people who had, you know, no connection with us. And so they just seemed like normal people and normal kids. And, you know, I would just be in awe of them. Wow, like, how can you just like exist? Like, how can you just wear whatever you want? And how can you say and act and be who you are, like so freely? Like, it just blew my mind when I saw people, you know, expressing themselves through the way that they dressed or through their music or everything. It just, well, yeah, I was jealous most of the time. Like, yeah, like I want to be like that, but I had no permission. I had no safety. And there was a lot too, like when I would meet kids and they would be complaining about their family or, you know, different things like, you know, or money, like there would be this part of me that would be like, what the fuck? Like, you're complaining and you have a mom, you have a family. Like, I'm not even jealous of your car or your clothes or your things. Like, I'm jealous that you have a family. I'm jealous you have a mom. I'm jealous you have someone there for you. So again, it was just like this really just trying to discover who I was. And because I had no idea who I was, I copied people. Like, I'd meet someone and it'd be like, oh my God, I love this. So I would try and copy that person. Oh my God, I love this. I'm going to copy you. 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 So for a long time, I would just copy what I saw because I had no idea. I had no idea how to choose or to even think for myself of what I would even like. So recently, I've really been able to own it. Like, I've been able to own my body. And it's once I owned all of my shadow, because my shadow was stored in my body. And if I wasn't loving and connecting to my body, then I wasn't connecting to my shadow. It was like this barrier, like, oh, if I'm not in my body and I'm connected to this as a physical being, I don't have to judge anything else. So that was like another safety. It's like, I'm not even going to acknowledge my body. And it moved into tiny steps of like being able to wear a bikini, being able to wear a swimsuit, being able to show cleavage, just tiny little things. And that's the hard thing too, is like, even though I was so scared of my body because it attracted so much, like I blamed my body for attracting all of this to me for so long. It's like, it's your fault, body. And realizing that my body was my greatest gift. And I love being a woman. I love it. I love women. I think women are beautiful. I think everyone's beautiful, but I've always loved the female body. I've always just thought it was so beautiful, so majestic, so just like, it just blew my mind. Like, even the fact of creation, being able to have a baby, just everything about the female body, I just loved it. I just thought it was magical. And I didn't understand it, even though I was a woman. I had no clue what it meant to be a woman.
Yeah.
And being able to find what that is and what that looks like is that even through all of the pain and all the trauma and all the physical abuse, it's kind of like that experience of going into the darkness, like hating my body so much, gave me permission to actually love my body and accept it for every piece, for all the scars, all the stretch marks, every little piece of me. I just get to love it and I get to own it. And a big part of it was letting go of what I believed my body should look like by the perception of society. Like, if you're not like this or that, then you're not acceptable. It's like, no, I have to love myself exactly as I am. And once I could accept myself for who I was and realizing that who I am is who I need to be, and the body that I have is perfect for me, then it was like, yes, I actually love being a woman. I love it. I love feeling feminine. I love every aspect of it. And it's definitely been a journey, and it still is, where I still have to create safety with myself sometimes, or there'll be random moments where like I'll just be out in public and someone will give me a weird look, and this like ancient fear will pop up of like, oh my God, am I not like, they know I'm not supposed to be dressed like this, you know, where it's just like, oh, I'm dressed inappropriately. But that's the beauty of it too, is like, once I'm aware of it, as soon as the fear or the doubt pops up, like I can recognize that as an old program and be like, that's not my story anymore. Like, if you have a problem with how I feel or how I'm looking, like, no one's forcing you to stand there and watch me, I hope. So it's just like, I had to love and accept myself. And that's just been the biggest thing. And once I did that, like, my body physically has started to shift. Like, I haven't really changed my diet or my exercise, but it's just like feeling my body and connecting to it and listening to it. It's just like, it is my greatest asset and my greatest benefit. And it is magical and beautiful and so, so powerful. Like, when I connect to my body, I can legit go back to my conception, to being an infant. Like, I remember what this body feels like as an infant. And the fact that I can connect to that just blows my mind, because it's like, you just feel it on so many levels, and how this body was able to survive all of that and to still be here, to still be supporting me, still be breathing, still be my heart beating, every single aspect of it. It's like, I just honor my body, and I am so grateful for everything that it's been through, that it's carried inside of it for so long. And I just honor my body in so many levels that I never did before.
Major testimony, major redemption. Good for you. You know, like, there are few women that speak so majestically about the body that they're in, even without the experiences and coming from the extreme experience that you have. And I think partly it is because you were able to go into that shadow. And then, like you've just said as well, you know, for all that it's been through and all that my body has experienced, you know, the trauma, but then also you've experienced carrying children and birthing children. So it's like, wouldn't you be in wonder? You have to be in wonder, right? When all of that, when you've come through all of that and you're still standing and just still breathing, it's like, hang on a minute, there's something good happening through all of this. So, you know, so hats off, everything to you for just like sharing and being so open, just being, like I said, the warrior that you are. What are you doing? You know, are you in a healing practice? What are you offering out to the world? Are you passing this on to other people? Because you've got such a strong mission in you, if you're not doing it already. Are you doing something now?
Yes, I do. So I've really been focusing on my podcast, and this month, especially because of the human trafficking and everything, my focus has kind of been on that. This month is the human trafficking, standing up, going to protest and activist work and stuff like that. But my passion and what really makes my heart sing is supporting people, is connecting to people, is to creating safety. And how I see it, which I came through in my last breakthrough as well, is accessing people's souls' blueprints and translating it from light into wisdom and to knowledge, and really discovering your cosmic signature. Like, what's your soul's message? What's your soul's intention? Really working with the highest vibrations and energy of clearing out all of the gunk and releasing and creating safe and honor for all of the shadow aspects of us that all of us struggle with facing. And it's really just creating safety enough to be able to face the darkest parts of self, to then be transformed and transmuted. And it's like a diamond, like going in like a diamond, absorbing it and just transmuting it out into the highest vibration of love and light and self-acceptance and self-awareness, and just embodying your soul's blueprint and message and intention. And the more we become that cosmic signature in our cosmic self, which to me is anchored in Christ consciousness, which is unconditional love. It's pure love and wisdom and humor, and embodying that and anchoring that in, and really supporting people to be able to maintain it and sustain it so that it's consistent, and really just get you in a place where you are so solid within yourself that you're creating the best life, not only for you, but for the entire world. Because that's how I believe we really do make a difference, is if I show up 100% as me, and I do everything that I do for the highest good, and that if I show up 100%, then the world gets to come home. The world gets to have freedom. The world gets to heal. The world gets to love itself and have self-acceptance and unconditional love. Then that's what I have to do. Everything that I do, I just do it from that space, that if I show up and I support this person and I create this connection, then all of us get to come home. All of us get to celebrate. There is no separation. So that's really my biggest passion, is just creating the foundation and the support and the connection, and just being a mirror and reflecting that back, because we are the leaders that we've been waiting for. We are the heroes that we've been looking for. And so when we embody that, then we've won. We've done everything that we came here to do, and every single person and every single being on this planet will benefit from it. So that's really just what I love to do, is just be that mirror and that channel, and just reminding us that you are who you need to be. You have everything that you need within you. And I'm just a messenger. I'm just a support. I'm just a tool. I'm just an anchor for you to discover your own magnificence and your own beauty and your own magical being.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Let me ask you some other questions. What is the best piece of advice that a woman has ever given to you?
This one, I actually was thinking about this one quite a bit. I think the best piece of advice is to definitely put myself first. Face the shadows, go right into it. I have a mentor over the last couple of years that I absolutely love. She's been like a mom to me. Just that feeling. And the one thing that she really anchored in for me was creating safety. And it's real safety on so many levels, safety for myself and safety for other people. To me, that's the most important thing, is safety, because without safety, I never would have been able to have trust enough to heal. So to me, foundational is safety. And one thing that really has helped me a lot is saying I'm safe. When I feel like I'm starting to go into panic or triggered, is I can say, I'm safe, I'm safe, I'm safe, I'm safe, I'm safe, until I actually physically feel safe, and it just shifts the energy. So that has been helpful. And then because she's feisty and fiery like me, I love her so much. Another quote that she said that really helps, especially when people say things that, might not have a place in saying it, but I love her so much. The quote that she says is, so when people say something, you can say, thank you for caring and fuck you for sharing.
Okay, that is going to go. That's good. Yeah. Okay. Making a meme.
Yep, exactly. Because it is thank you for sharing, but fuck you for sharing, because now it's all up in my shit. But even that, it's that's what I really loved, is I had this experience with Christ energy, and I've never really connected to Jesus Christ, because of all my past, but he came through, the energy came through in one of my breakthroughs. And it blew my mind how fucking funny he was. He was so hilarious. The energy of Christ was so funny. And I'm still I plan to write a book about the humor of Christ, because it is just out of this world hilarious. And I really got it. I was that is the ultimate transmutation, is to be able to laugh and to joke about it. So I love it. And I love that little quote that she says, because it's once you get it and there's no more feeling bad and wrong or guilt and shame, you can laugh about it and you can joke about it, and it's great and it's fun, and you can be yeah, thanks for caring, that's you for sharing.
I love it. And I love that you've got, the Christ energy has a sense of humor, because we always think about, these ascended masters and religious figures as very pious, serious, godly people. But, if they had a bit of wit and a bit of dry and a bit of sarcasm to them, all the more, more people would get involved, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, it changed my perception. I was like, okay, that's the Jesus I can get down with. Like, Jesus is my homie. Like, Jesus, my homie. So it was really amazing to be able to feel that. And it kind of gave that permission, it's like higher vibration energy can be whatever it is. I think it's just us humans that really put the attachments to the words and all of that energy. But it's really beautiful to be able to experience the darkest things and then find the joke and find the humor and find the laughter. And I remember specifically in that one, is my fear kept coming up, was about speaking my truth and telling my story. And the deep fear was like, oh, but if I speak out, like, I'm going to be sacrificed. They're going to come for me. And he's like, bitch, you're trying to up-one me? Like, I already did that. I already came. I already sacrificed. Like, and it's like if me and my sister were talking, it's just so real and to the point. Like, I already did it. And, so it just takes it away. It's like, you're just another person. You're just like me. There's no separation. There's no hierarchy. There's no, it's just like, we're just homies chilling.
So cool. Yeah, I did that one. Did you not see the cross? That's good. What woman would you say represents higher energetic resonance to you?
So this one was a tough one for me. I was thinking about this because I was like, I've never really followed any public figures, or
doesn't have to be.
I was really, like I was trying to think of like, I was like, okay, people that I think of out there like that, are influential and have a big following, is there anyone that I can really, really think of? And the only thing that kept
sorry to cut you as well, just also with, just like kind of pinpoint where we're at August 2020, and not going to put names on it or anything like that, but like there were like some forerunners that always used to get mentioned on this podcast. If I was to do a tally, there's some forerunners. It'll be, give it 6 months, give it a year. Those episodes will not date well. Let's put it that way.
I love it.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, when it comes to, public figures and things like that, especially with this year, I think we're realizing that all that glitters is not gold, so let's just, whoever represents it, it can be someone who lives next door to you, it can be nobody, so it's a question that I've asked, but then it's like, is this question relevant going forward, so I'm thinking of having to reorganize that. But just, if you have someone in mind, I'm just kind of putting it out there and time stamping it, going, I know what people have said in the past, the future will there'll be some badly dated archived episodes and analysis. They will not age well at all. And anyhow, we got swept along with the charade.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing, is like, we don't know what we don't know until we know it, right? And all we can do is what we're aware is accept it and take action to not do it again. So
right.
Yeah, the thing that really came up for me, because I was trying to think of, like spiritual leaders or just different people who've been influential. And the only thing that kept coming up over and over again was the quote by Helen Keller. And it says, life is a daring adventure, or it's nothing at all. And so that just kept coming up. And I feel like that is really, it's been really influential on my life, because my whole life has felt like a daring adventure, or it was nothing at all. Because when I wasn't daring to be in the adventure of life, then I wasn't alive, and I was the living dead, and I was not happy, and I wasn't truly alive. So I would have to say that is definitely inspirational for me. And then I want to do a little shout out to my daughter because she's just so wise beyond her years. And I love her so much. And she's my hero. Like, she's like, I see me in her, like the inner child of me that was never able to be, like, gets to live through her and her expression and her play, and just how wild and how, you know, she just has her voice and speaks up. And so there's one thing that she said to me one day when I was getting upset and I was getting angry, and she just came to me and she's like, Mom, it's okay to be angry or upset because that's just an emotion and we all have emotions. She's like, so it's okay. It's okay to feel those things. And it just, you know, it just hit me right in my heart. Like, oh, like, you know, the fact that she's encouraging me to feel my feelings and not taking it personal. Like, if you're angry, it means you're angry at me. Or, you know, it's like she's not internalizing it like I would have as a kid. So it was just so powerful to hear her just be like, it's okay, feel it, be with it. We all have emotions, and it's just okay to be with that. It's just really huge.
Precious. Amazing. What age is she?
She's 9. Yeah.
So wise.
She is so
Yeah. Good. So what do you do for self-care? How do you lavish love and spoil self? What do you do?
So for me, the biggest thing is being outdoors. Like, that's my main thing. Is I love being outside, whether it's just laying on the grass or walking barefoot. But for my self-care, I really have to be consistent in moving my emotional energy. Like, that's one of the things that I do consistently because I have so much energy to process that I do that, whether it's just a few times a week or just however I feel like I need to. But I'm pretty consistent. At least once a week, I'll do a peer call with my sister where we can both move our emotional energy. And all that really looks like is if you have an upset or something that's, you know, bothering you, is you just talk about it, and you just talk about it until you usually get the, you know, your solution to it. And so it's like that, moving my emotional energy where I can just have a conversation and talk it through, or where I can do, like, I can have a tantrum. I'll go in my room and I'll throw a tantrum on my bed. I'll allow myself to really move the energy, because that's one thing that I've really gotten clear on is if I have an upset or a pattern that keeps showing up, that keeps causing upset and fear or anger or anxiety, if I don't acknowledge it and go into the reason that it keeps coming up, it will continue coming up until I stop and actually face it. So I've gotten really good at when something comes up to catch it really quick and then to process it so it doesn't keep manifesting in different ways. So really moving my energy, either throwing a tantrum like a kid, and then I do rewards. Like, I'll get to go play, or I'll get to watch a movie that I enjoy, or I'll dance and I sing. But really, to be able to get to the positive emotions, if I'm in any place that's not feeling it, like, I just have to really allow myself to feel the resistance. Like, I'll go into the resistance. Like, if I don't want to wash dishes, I'll be like, I don't want to wash dishes. You know, like, I'll just act like a kid and I'll just let the energy out until I feel like, okay, now I can choose into washing dishes. I can choose into cleaning my house. I can choose into this. And it's gotten to a point where I don't force myself. I really try not to force myself into doing anything. I get clear if it's true for me, if it's authentic to me, if it's going to benefit me. So it's really just creating a consistent self-awareness that when I'm energetically off, I can acknowledge it, I can work through it, and then that automatically puts me in the space for playing, for being in joy, for celebrating, for dancing, for singing, for just being a kid, and really being heart-based. In my heart is where I'm always striving to reach, is to get to that heart-based place. So that's really where I focus, is moving the energy, getting to the place of joy and celebration. And then that usually just, continues in supporting other people to get to that space, which is, I'm really grateful for my sister, because we're usually opposite of each other. So if I'm really in a bad space, she's usually in a space that she can help me. And if she's in a bad space, I'm usually in a space that I can help her. And that's been another thing, is being open to receive and ask for support. And a lot of the times when I'm resisting facing or talking through something, usually the universe will bring someone or something up that will reach out to me, and it will just divinely work out, where we'll be able to work through everything that I've been questioning. So it's just beautiful to just trust and to go with the flow, and to know that everything has its own divine timing and pops up whenever it's ready.
Thank you. Beautiful practices. So you're spending August, you say, doing a lot of like, what are you going to be doing with regards to trafficking, as some events that are on?
Yeah, so I'm doing, like, I've done a few podcasts to raise awareness, sharing my story. I'm going to local events and supporting local events to reach people, just to kind of spread awareness and share a story. And the goal of the groups are also, to reach out and to really just start changing laws and creating, safety for people to come out and to share their story. And I think the biggest thing right now is just really needing people to acknowledge that it is happening, that it is there, and it's been here for a long time, and that it's a lot bigger than any of us, have believed. So it's really just creating that awareness. And then again, just sending that message that when people hear about these things, my first reaction, most people's reaction, is to get angry and to get upset, because it's horrific and it's unbelievable and it just should not even happen. And so with that, it's like, it's the same thing. Like, we have every right to be angry and to express that anger, but then moving from that anger into compassion, into awareness, into forgiveness. Not getting stuck in that anger, because it's not going to help us or anyone else being stuck in anger. So really just creating that safety for people to really gain the awareness that's going to benefit them and the rest of the world, to really start healing and to acknowledge that this is a big problem that affects everybody. And at this point, if you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem. And it's hard to hear that, but it is. It's like, that's just where we're at right now, is if you're not part of the solution, I'm sorry, but you're part of the problem, because there is no separation.
Thank you. So well said. It's because for me, like, building awareness around trafficking and how prevalent it was and what the figures were, my God, and then just doing research, finding you, and then just digging and like listening to so many other people's testimony online, and seeing all of the different movements that are set up behind it to help eradicate it and do the best that they can. Like you're saying, it's like, for once you know you can't unknow, and then you just feel this sense of like, I've got to do something, and as when I was saying to you, like, this kind of 8/8, that we've just come through that major energetic portal. For me, I'm like, well, what can I do? Like, okay, I've got this podcast, I'm going to commit, this month of August and what's left of August to really make sure that that's what I'm talking about, and having your story as someone who can be, I'm like, listen to this woman, she's been through it and she's come through the other side. Because also with the voices of all of the women and the children and the boys and the girls who have survived it in some way, have come out the other side or have a story to tell, once more and more awareness comes from this, because my belief is that we really can't rise up as humanity until pretty much everyone on the planet is aware of this, because it's been happening under our noses. This is the shadow that we've not been aware of, and I know that many people will not want to. It'll be, oh my God, that's just too whatever. It's like, but this is not the time for us to like close our eyes and our ears and say it's too much. We're already in this massive global psychological game that we're being played, but this is a time for us to wake up, because one, we're seeing that we've just been seeing how we can be manipulated and see how we can be lied to. So if that's one secret, what other secrets are there? And there is a real groundswell of awareness coming up, which is, you know, why I'm saying, and, you know, I'm not going to, it will become apparent very, very soon that all of the people that we have looked towards to be our saviors and our guides and our mentors and the figures of respectability in the world have just been a distraction and have been part of this problem. And that in itself is going to be a major slap in the face for people. I don't know how they're going to be able to deal with that. You know, not only that they're going to look at that person that they might have thought, you know, everything came, like the sun shone out of this person's eyes. They were the best person in the world. I went to all their movies. I bought all their books. I did all the things that they did, and they are amazing. But you've got to think, well, ultimately, when we understand the structure of society and the fact that we don't really know what's going on. We don't. We are just being fed a story, and then we choose our experiences by the little bits of information that we take, and we kind of, you know, wrap it all together and create our reality for ourselves. And then we decide that these figures of influence are better than the people who are next to us and that we rub shoulders with every day. And we've given them all of these energies, and at the same time they've been part of a major, major problem. But it's inverting everything now, and this dark shadow is going to come up and out, and there's going to be a massive need for healing in this world, you know, and I mean, I don't even know what that's going to look like, because, you know, the people that are going to have to really deal with the reality of what that means is people that probably don't have any kind of practice, you know, in their lives. They just live a regular life. They're not particularly religious, probably. I mean, they might be praying now, but, you know, they don't have a sense of self or anything like that. But this is going to tear the fabric of their reality down. And I just can see someone, especially someone like yourself, who can speak so passionately about where you've been and what you've been through and the darkest that you've felt, but then also the redemption and the love and the compassion, and then still be able to look at somebody and see right into their soul. That's a big ask for people, you know, I don't even know how to quantify how they're going to have to deal with that. And if we think we're at a place where we've got a psychological issue at the moment, I don't know, we've not got there yet.
Yeah, there is so much. And literally what it feels like for me is the breaking down of everything that you believed was reality. Like, it's just going to be stripped away. And for a lot of the people, it's going to be tough to, like you said, you know, tough to acknowledge how you've supported these people, how you've, you know, bought all their things, how you've just really admired them and believed that they were, you know, the pinnacle of high caliber or success or whatever it is that you perceive them as. And the biggest thing that, you know, comes up for me is a lot of people are going to feel guilty. And they're going to feel, you know, ashamed or blame and guilt. And that's the biggest thing, is like we go into self beat up when we realize, like, you know, like with my kids, I could go into self beat up, like, oh my God, I was such a horrible mom all those years. I didn't know. But it's like, no. And I see the awareness, and it comes through guilt. And the guilt is just unexpressed power. It's giving away our power. That's what we're upset about, is that we weren't trusting ourselves. We weren't honoring ourselves, that we were giving our power away to someone and something outside of us, believing that was going to make us more satisfied with our life, or it gives us something to reach forward, when in reality, like you said, it's all just been a complete distraction. I mean, in a sense, it's like the Truman Show. It's like you're just here living all these things, and then all of a sudden one day you break through and you realize, holy crap, it was all fake and it was all a lie. But the beauty in being able to face that everything is breaking down is that now we get to break through. And when we can stand up for our children and we can free the children, that is when we will have the greatest evolution in consciousness on this planet. It's like that feels like that is the tipping point of the scales of, like, when we get to that point where they are liberated, there's no other options other than to go into healing. And the children will be what brings us together. And I know that is going to be the biggest, asset like that I could bring, is to be a voice during the madness, during the chaos, is reminding them, yes, we can be angry. Yes, we can be upset, but we also have compassion. We also have forgiveness. We also have our own personal power to change it and to create something new. And if we don't face it, then it's never going to change. Those children will never be freed. We'll be sitting here telling the same, ho-hum, dumb story over and over again, walking around just, like my parents, chicken with their head cut off, or just running around, not knowing what's happening. So really, I would, it is all about the kids. For me, it's always been about the children. I've always had such a huge bond with children. Like and I know it's that connection with my inner child. So I feel like that's where people could really benefit, is during all of this time, focusing on yourself, focusing on your inner child, focusing on creating that bond. What does your inner child need to feel safe? The people that you're looking outside of you, they're probably reflecting either your mom or your dad in your life, or caretakers in your life that you've had issues with, or you've glorified them. So really start to look at them and see, one, how are they reflecting to me, myself? So it's either like, and I've noticed that whenever I see someone and I'm like judging or perceiving or feeling jealous or comparing, I might always look and I'm like, okay, where am I doing this in my life, or where am I not giving myself permission to do this? Like, am I upset because they're using their voice and I'm not safe enough to use my voice? Are they triggering me because that's what I do? And so now I see it in them and it triggers me. Like, so I really just internalize it and see where the shift needs to come within me, so that I can love them as they are without needing to really like get involved with it, if that makes sense. It's like, I know that the reality of my world is based on my perception and my internal experience. And if I want to change anything outside, I need to go within me. I need to face the parts that it's triggering, the parts that it's upset, because that is where the light is. And that's where the heart-based comes. Just be in that space to create the safety for everyone else to feel safe enough to show up and to heal and to face what it is that they've been avoiding in their life.
Yeah, it's going to be a seismic wave of healing for those who are prepared to take that journey. Like we said, I think we weren't recording, that I've seen how still some people are bypassing just the knowledge of it, particularly within a spiritual community, and kind of like making excuses for situations. And I'm just like, well, it's going to be very difficult for that structure to maintain itself when the greater truth is known. And then if it does maintain itself, I just don't even see how it's possible, because if you really sit down and think that you can kind of turn some sort of blind eye for your own gratification when children have suffered, then you're, like you said, you're part of the problem. You are part of the problem, and you may not think it, but you're allowing it to go on.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're not speaking up for it. And if we can't protect the most innocent on the planet, then we don't deserve. You have to, because there'll come a point where it's their turn to kind of take the positions of power. And if we don't nurture them and keep them sweet and young and loving at that point, then, when they're older and that empathy and that love is not within them, we're all going to have a big issue, but I don't think we're moving towards that. It's a different time now. It's just that we've got a bit of a hump to go over it. And I think that especially now, more and more stories and more awareness, and even You know, the women that have been telling their stories for years and years and have been suppressed and pushed to the side and laughed at and everything like that, but have been relentless and being listened to again. And, you know, that we're hearing them finally, because their voices were stamped and their voices were closed because the people who were perpetuating the abuse had the hold on the channels of communication, the hold on the media. And these things are starting to shake now. And also, even though we've been suppressed and censored with social media and the internet, the word is still getting out somehow. It is, you know, and even though most people are not necessarily activists that are going to immediately run out into the street, they're still going to look around at the children around them and you know, and just think, well, what kind of world is, I don't want that to happen to my grandchild, or I don't want that to happen to the child that lives next door, or it just doesn't make sense. And we're all parents of the future, really, whether they're ours biologically or not. We have to take responsibility for that as well. So I felt really moved by really finding out what has been happening and just wanting to do something.
Yeah.
And also to do, and even then it's like, okay, then what else can I do? But to always just do something, you know?
Yeah. And it really is. And that's the one thing that I've really had to, you know, acknowledge, is that by, you know, me being me and me loving myself and me accepting and me being aware of the truth and being willing to speak the truth, especially the hard truths and the hard conversations, no matter what other people say, that is healing, that is making a difference. And it really has a huge effect on so many levels. And I feel like that's really how we've gotten to this place as a society and a world, is that we have been asking for the truth. We've been looking for it. We've been wanting it. And so now it's like, now we're just getting to the point that we're actually going to receive all of it. And as you were talking, there was a few little metaphors that came up. Like, I mean, it's like when you step into a lake or a river and you step and all the little sediments come up, you know, and it's all cloudy and murky. It's like, that's kind of what it is right now. It's like all the little things are coming up because it's all, you know, it's all coming to the surface. But then once it all clears, then we can see again. We have clarity. We can really take forward movement with awareness of where we did come from, so that we don't repeat it again. And then there's this other metaphor that I can't remember. I think I heard it in the channeled messages, but they were trying to describe like, pretty much like the essence and the power of darkness and light. And so for me, like, light is pretty much information and darkness is lack of information. So on the planet, let's say if we had a scale of light and dark, because light is so much more potent than darkness, on this planet, we only needed 35% light to be able to overthrow the other 65% of darkness. Because that's how powerful it is, that we don't need as much light to overthrow that much darkness, because there is so much power in it. And darkness, really, I only see darkness as a shade of light, like it's another shade of light that can be absorbed and transformed into the highest light quotient. And that's really what we're here to do, is to just create the space within our body to hold the highest level of light that's available to us on this planet. And that was one thing that came up too, was when you're talking, it's like, that is so true, that when the truth and all of these things come out, like, it couldn't stay the same. It just physically is impossible, because when you see the children, the most pure and the most innocent, and you feel it and you hear it, and it's like that experience of me going into the complete darkness gives me the highest vibration of love and like unconditional love and light. That is the fabric, like the fabric that is made of, the energy vibration is so powerful and so beyond this world, that this world would literally shatter, because that's how powerful it was. If every person was able to connect that energy of unconditional love, our world would be instantly transformed, and there would be no separation. There would be nothing out of balance. It's just so powerful and so transformative that for me, it's like, I would gladly face all of the darkness and demons in this world if that's what I'm getting out of it, because that's what I know that I will, is that there's nothing to fear over here and I gain everything. But when I don't face it, I lose everything. And that was what I believed my whole life, is if I don't face you and I don't go into you, then you're not real and you're not there and you're not affecting me. But the moment that I actually acknowledge and go into you, you disappear and I get all of my power back, because the only thing that was holding me back was the belief that you had power over me. But once I realized there is no power because you have no power over me, then I gain all of myself, I gain everything. And then really they gain themselves every single time. They gain a little bit more of themselves. So I know that every time we can face it and transmute it and heal it, we're healing our bodies, our souls, our hearts. We're healing our family, our world, everything. So it is so important, and it's totally worth it. Like the greatest amount of joy and laughter and bliss, like it is so beyond this world that like that's where I want to live. And that was honestly the first thing that I ever felt when I actually connected to my soul and the depth of love and compassion and forgiveness. The first thing was just like complete joy and bliss. And then the next thing was, please don't ever leave me. Please don't ever leave me. Like, I don't ever want to lose this feeling. I never want to lose this light, this love. I just was like, I just don't ever want to lose this feeling. And I got it as soon as I had that. And I was saying that, I was like, you can never lose what's yours. This is mine. And I've earned it. I've gained this, and it can never, ever be taken from me fully. I might forget about it and I might be disconnected from it, but it's always there. It's always there. And it's just powerful. And it's the most satisfying thing in my life, that I know that I cannot receive that from anything or anyone outside of myself. Yeah. And that's where all the pain comes from everyone, is they're looking outside for something that they're not even aware of what they're looking for. But what they're really looking for is themselves in their purest form, in their heart, in their inner child. Like that most joyous memory that you can have of yourself as a child, like that's what I see in everyone through all the pain, all the fear, everything. It's like that just pure, happy little kid that could just daydream and just knows that the only thing that is real is love. And that's just where you exist, is the only thing real is love. So there's nothing outside of that. And it's just no better way to live.
Yay. You're amazing. You're amazing. Do you want to share like a social media or a website, or do you have anything like that going on that you want to promote? If you don't,
yes. Yeah, you can find me on social media, Instagram, Facebook, Deep Truth 1212. And then also I have a podcast that's Deep Truth 1212 as well. The podcast is Deep Truth with Sarah Taylor. But to reach me, you can send me an email at deeptruth1212@gmail.com. And that's usually the best and quickest way to reach me, is through that email.
Fantastic. Gosh. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Sarah, for coming on and just being so frank and open and raw and real and passionate. And just, dropping the F-bomb where it needed to go. You know what I mean? It's like, it just, it needs that. It is what it is. And we've got to stop being so offended by words and things. We get so offended by the things that don't warrant any offense. And then when we're faced with something that we should be offended by, then we put our heads in the sand. It's like, we need to kind of like spin things around and work out where we need to like put our agitation. Yeah. So just to say thank you, and like I'm just wanting more for you as well, to like, I want more people to hear your story and your voice, and to see that real people have real deep experiences, but also they have real transformation. And like you say, that, you know, it's kind of been like watered down, you know, the only thing is love, but it actually really is. And you're just the huge testament to the fact that if you can find that in all the shapes and all of the things that it means, then you can experience the deepest, the darkest, the most heinous, and still come out of it living a life and still working on yourself daily, but still having a life.
Yep.
That's beautiful.
Yep, actually have a life worth living and feeling alive. And that's the biggest thing, you know, is how many people aren't really alive? How many people aren't really living their life? They're just going through the motions. And, you know, I think that's the biggest thing that's really going to shake everyone up, is they're not going to have a choice. You know, it's kind of like your head's going to be pulled out of the sand, and everything's going to, like, it feels like it just comes to a halt, where it's like, hey, you've been rushing around for so long, now you have to stop and actually face it. And you gain so much facing it. It's just, it's incredible. And to me, it's almost like if I didn't, all of my life that I didn't face my darkness, I didn't have love. Like, that was the only time that I really gained love, was by gaining my darkness. And through my pain, I did find my greatest bliss. So I think that's the biggest thing too. As soon as I said that, what popped up was, I think that's kind of part of the fear, is we feel like our pain and our trauma and our fear is so big that if we actually go into it, that it will never stop, or it will consume us, or it'll just be too overwhelming. And that's one thing that's been huge for me to realize, is I only get as much as I'm ready for. And once I'm healed and I've been able to work through that, then that's when the next thing and the next thing will come up. And that it does end. There is a point where you feel complete, where you feel, you know, like it isn't the end of the world and it's not overwhelming. I mean, before I used to not hate, like, oh my God, I have to go process my energy, you know, and it was something that was a chore. Where now it's like, oh yes, I get to process my energy. I get to move through this so that I get to celebrate, so that I'm not stuck, so that I don't go into self-destruction. So that's just really the biggest thing, is knowing that we aren't ever given more than we can handle, especially when it comes to, you know, our pain and trauma. And just having the space of safety and acceptance really does do a lot of good, and it helps just anchor in that we're invincible and we're magnificent, and that we are warriors and we can do anything. And I mean, let's not get it twisted. We're powerful souls. We're here to shake these things up, and if we're here on this planet at this time, it's because we're here to fucking rip this shit down and create the best life for everyone and everything, where there is nobody whose needs are not met, who there's unbalance. Like, we're here to change it and to create the best life for every single person. And it's an honor. Like, it's an honor to have met you, to be on this journey with you, to be on this journey with so many powerful souls. And I know that that's, you know, my biggest determination and motivation is knowing that I'm not alone. I'm not alone. And none of us are. And that there is hope. And there's hope because we have each other. And so if we have each other, we're unstoppable, we're invincible, and we deserve the best life, and everyone does. So that's just like my commitment, is to make that a reality for myself and for everyone. And I know that it's getting so close, because I can feel it. It's like the calm before the storm, you know, it's going to break down. But then once we get through the other side, like, the amounts of joy and bliss and celebration and unity is just going to be out of this world. Like, I am so excited to get through the other side. And it is just like we're going through a birth, and we've been deciding if this birth is going to be difficult or if it's going to be smooth, but we're going to be birthed one way or the other. And once we are,
there's some good things. No, I'm with you. There are some amazing, juicy good things in the world. We're just not aware of them at the moment. And it can, you know, the experience of life that we can have, even I can't really get my head around it. You know, I know that certain things are in place. I know that certain things exist. But then the experience and what they can create in order to what our life will be like on a day-to-day basis, and all the things that we kind of think that we need, and the things that we have to do in order to have, once that kind of like unnecessary doing is taken out of the way, we can just have such an experience of life that I'm, even with my creative mind, I'm still like, but you know, because you still come back to like the restrictions that you have based on this reality and what you think is possible, and then you think, well, that's possible. It's like, yeah, but what does that look like on a minute to minute basis? We won't know. All I can say is, it's, you know, you talk about love and also freedom. Like we just can't even, because I don't think we realise to what extent we are in a slave situation at the moment, and people find it this will only make sense in hindsight, particularly with all the race riots that were going on just a while ago that seem to have died down for a moment, it seems, as well. But you know what I always wanted to say is, we have a bigger problem than that. And for those who are still stuck in that division, and like, we have a bigger problem, and we're just now getting to the point where the bubble is just going to burst on the reality of that, and then it will be like, well, we haven't got time to like fight each other. We've just got to like save our own and rise up now and find our voices, and get on the other side and make it all good. And travel again.
Yes, travel again. Yes. We all humans. And that's the biggest thing, is just having like a world community. That's what I see. And with my sister, because she's more logical and I'm more spiritual, which again, it's the opposite. We bring that beauty and that balance. And so she's always, you know, like saying the same thing, like, well, what are the logical steps to getting there? Like A, B, C, and D, you know, because when I talk about it and I'm like, oh, if I show up 100%, then, you know, I get to have the world that I live in. And so for me, I think the biggest thing is there is the logical and there is the A, B, C, and D. But I think for me, what I've realized is the biggest manifestation is focusing on what I want the world to feel like. Like, I might not know what the world looks like 100%, and I know there's possibilities, but I definitely know what my bliss is, and I definitely know, you know, what I want my world to feel like. So for me, that's been the biggest thing, is like just anchoring in that feeling of, you know, like I said, unconditional love, just a huge family. Just everyone is just a huge family where there's no separation, there's no competition. It's just, we're all here for the benefit of all. And just comes in complete love and compassion and just excitement of getting able to really connect and to share our experiences and to learn and to heal together and to hold space together. And it's just, it just makes me so happy. I just like, ooh, I could just go on for hours.
It's going to be good. It's going to be good. And it's been like an absolute joy to speak to you.
And I came with you, and you're such a gift, and the space that you hold. Thank you for holding the space and creating the safety, not only for me, but for everyone, to really just be authentic, to show up and to shine, and to be willing to speak your truth, to hold space for other people to speak their truth. Like, you've given me such a great gift, and you always will be my soul sister and have like a special place in my heart always. And I can't wait to meet you in the physical too.
I know, it'll happen when we can do planes again. when we're on the other side of this bump. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah, for sharing your story. Thank you for being a warrior. And thank you for listening to this episode of Her Conversations. If you want to find out more about me, my website is carolmaywhittick.com. That's carolmaywhittick.com. You can find me on Facebook under the same name, and on Twitter, Instagram, and Parler at Casmic. That's CAZMICK. Thank you so much. Take care of yourself. Speak to you again soon. Thank you.